Hello, this is Pat Cahill from Pat Cahill Metalworks, and today we're doing something a little different. We're going to start out with a piece of fine silver, and the dimensions are 3 inches by 1 inch. And what I'm going to do is try to make a tube out of it, and I'm going to fuse it rather than solder it. So you've seen me do this a bunch of times. I'm going to try to bring it around. Fine silver is so much softer than sterling silver. It's actually, that's why everything's pretty much made out of sterling silver. Fine silver is really too soft to have any durability, and it can nick and do a lot of things. But with what we're doing today, that won't matter. So again, I'm just bringing it around and trying to match up these ends. I mean, these ends have to be matched up perfectly for fusing. Not for soldering too, but it's even more critical if you want to fuse two pieces or a piece of fine silver to itself. Alright. As always, it takes a little fiddling. And I might do some of that off camera. But you see, this is what you're going to have to go back and forth. Try to get that. It might be, just use my metal ones and push it down so that it sits flatter. You can see how that's sitting flatter. Okay, so this part looks okay. This part's not gonna work. So we have to keep working on that, and I'm gonna fiddle with that just by pushing it down and in, torquing it a little bit. And that looks better, and we'll do it again. Down, in, and a little torque, because it's just a little, I got a good seam up here, but down here I have a gap, which makes me think it's not, yeah, it's not sitting exactly. It's a little torqued. I don't know how to explain that. It's this is like this, and it should be nice and flat like that. So we just have to play until we get it just right. It does require patience, as all things. That's looking a lot better. Okay, I'm going to tweak it just a titch more, and then get ready to fuse it. So I'll be right back when I get my solder station up. Okay, so I have it all set up here. Get rid of this, it's not in my way. And we're going to try to fuse this seam right here. And the trick here is patience again. A nice bushy flame. And go slow. You want to heat it up to it's almost cherry. To it is cherry. And then concentrate on the joint. Watching for that flash. Now we're starting to see that nice red. I just want the flash. I'm trying to bring this over so you can see it. I see a little flash up on top, not where I want it. Again, don't try to hurry it. I think that looks good. Do you see how it's changed and now it's shinier? Because it's sort of melted, but it fused together. And don't get greedy like I am, because you will melt it. Melt a big freaking hole in it. Excuse my... I'm getting greedy here. I'm going to let that go. And if I feel I need to go back in it, I can always do that. So let's put that in the water. There's not really a reason to pickle it. There's no oxide. So there's our fused seam. And I'm checking it under the light here. I think it looks good. It's not, we're not going to be able to know until we start banging on it. I think that looks good. So let me get ready for the next step. Well, actually, there's no getting ready, it's just doing it. This is the scary step because your seam could just open up, but you want to know that now anyway. You don't want to learn later. So I'm just semi-rounding it out. That's round enough for our purpose at this point. And my seam is still intact. And looks good. So on to the next step. And I will get that ready. And when I get that ready, I bring it back. Okay, so I have this set up. I have one of these forming stakes on it. And what I've done is I've marked the middle of our piece. And I'm putting that right on top and going around slowly. What I'm trying to do is bring up the middle and bring down the sides. So you just go down slowly, just below your mark. Actually a little bit below, about 1/8 of an inch. I just realized that this is not going to make a very compelling video because it's slow work. You got to go course by course, and when I say course, I mean I'm going all the way around on this side of my center line. Carefully. And that will be one course. Okay. You can see that this is starting to form inward, and you can't really tell, but that is actually being pushed up a little bit. And in reference to what's going down. So that's my first course. Now I'm on my second course on the other side. I do the same thing. Oops. Try to keep this guy right there in the center. But if he comes off, it's easy to put back. So the technique of fusing silver is really not fusing fine silver is really nice because there's no solder seam. In the end, it will just be one piece of silver, and that's what people like fusing. Okay, so again, here's my next course, and I'm going to keep going around and doing this. So I'm going to go around about 2-3 more times on each side, slowly working my way out from the middle, and maybe I will fast forward that. I don't know what I'm going to do. Okay, so I've went around quite a few times, quite a few courses, and I actually just annealed it because it was getting a little bit hard to move. And you can start to see that I'm getting, it looks a little crude right now, but I'm getting a barrel-like shape, which is what I want. If you haven't figured it out yet, well, you saw the picture in the beginning, but I'm making a little barrel box. So we'll just keep working on that. I think I'm, as much as I can do with this stake, and what I'm going to do is change it over to a smaller one so I can get inside, and I'm actually going to turn it upside down. So I have this knob on the top that will allow me to put this in and even, start going around again. I lost my middle line, but you can see, I can see a faint indentation, or a faint, just a trace, maybe it's better, easier for me to say, a trace of the Sharpie. It goes away when you fire it, and that is actually one way that some people say to tell if you've annealed it. When the black Sharpie disappears, then your metal is annealed. I don't think you need that. But. So again, I'm just going to go around. Right now, I'm kind of starting at the top or the bottom, the edge, and I'm just turning it over because I want to get more of that rounded barrel shape. Okay, so there's that. Now we have the two ends. And when you do this, your ends aren't going to look like totally perfectly round just yet, so don't worry about that. We'll fix that. That'll come. So I'm going to go back, go a little bit more in. I'll start to go in from the middle and work my way out. So what's happening here is, as I'm hammering, I'm pushing it down, and this middle bump here allows the middle of the box, the barrel box, to flare out a little bit. Keep pushing it a little bit. So, again, it's just a lot of hammering. If you don't like hammering, don't do this. You're not going to like it. So I'm going to go do that. I'm going to bring it, start from the middle and just go all the way out on both sides. Trying to keep it as towards the end as nice as is circular here. It doesn't really matter because we're going to fix that up later on. So I'm going to keep on keeping on, and I'll bring you back when I got something else to show you. Okay, we're getting there. As a matter of fact, right now, got the sides, the ends nice and rounded, have a nice barrel shape. There's some little bits of quirkiness to it, but I'm not sure that I could do. I mean, you can keep going around. try to take out any of those little bumps or flares you see, so your barrel is nicely barrel shaped. And I check it. I'm trying to take away any humps, so you see hammer marks in odd places, but I see a little flat spot there. Actually, let me get another hammer. This is a panishing hammer I got here. And it won't leave those big marks in it. Actually, if you know what you're doing, you can use this to bouge out your marks. We're going to love our marks. Okay, so I'm going to keep going around like this, and I'll meet you back on the bench for our next step. Oops, that happened. I should have known that was happening when I heard the sound. Always listen to the sound. Sounds tell you a lot about how things are going. Alright, I'll meet you back at the bench. Okay, so we're all done hammering this into a nice barrel shape, as you can see, and it's nice and round on the edges, on the top and the bottom. And our next thing to do is to solder on the bottom and also make the top. And the top, I'm going to start out with that. I already started it a little bit, but I'm going to have it dapped so it gives a little curve and a little interest to it. So here's my dapping block. And there we go. Nice round dome. And that will fit on the top like that. I'm also going to hammer this so that it looks similar to that. So I'll meet you over at the at my vise where I'll do the hammering, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have that set up. It's the same thing I used to dap it. And I'm just going to go around carefully and give it texture. And there we go. So I'll meet you back over at the bench, and we'll go to the next step. Okay, so I have it all set up for soldering. I fluxed it, put in the solder chips. I put the solder chips into the inside. So when you draw it out, it'll just make it look a little bit nicer than having any blobs, and it's going to be hard to actually get at those blobs because of the curvature of the top. Alright, so that's it. Okay, so the top's done, and we're now going to work on the bottom, and I want to make sure I know what side the top is, and it's that side. The other side will wiggle a little bit. See that? This is nice and tight. See, it holds in there. So, next is to put the bottom on. And the bottom, first off, we want to do is sand down these two surfaces so they meet up really well with one another. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to be right back, and then I'm going to set it up for soldering, and I'll be right back. Okay, let's solder the bottom onto the the barrel. I'm just drawing it all the way around. It's blowing, it's done. Okay, so into the pickle, and I'll be back. Okay, so here's our little container. There's the lid. Fits on there nicely. We have to clean up the bottom a little bit, inside a little bit, and we need to remove this, as you've seen me do many times before, and then just file and sand around it. So I'm going to do that off camera because I got a lot more things I want to do with this box. So I'll be back. Okay, so here's where we stand. I did something a little bit different. I started to use the saw, but I was just worried about sawing into the piece or putting, little marks or something on my surface I already have. So I use snips. Well, these are not the ones I use, these are too big, but say these guys, and went all the way around. And I like that. I like the detail of it. It looks a little odd. And the nice thing about it is that when you come here, and if I was gonna finish this off, I'd have to start using my, my files and stuff. And this lower surface of the lower end of the little, I don't know what we're calling it, barrel, but that would be filed off too, and I'd lose all the detail of the hammering. So I'm going to leave it like that. I like it. I'm not sure if you guys do, but you can leave a note. It can always be redone. It can be finished all smooth, but for now I'm going to leave it like that. And we're on to the next step. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, use the keumboo technique. Keumboo. You've seen me do that before, but I'll show it to you again. With this, to put some gold foil on the outside of this pot. So I'm going to get set up for doing keumboo, and once I'm all set up, I'll bring you back. Okay, so I have it all set up to do the keumboo. I'm going to start with the lid. Just plop it in there. Watch out, it's quite hot. Now, with sterling silver, you have to really prepare the surface to accept the gold foil. But with fine silver, you don't need to do anything. So that's nice. And if you want to see how to do sterling silver, I have a video out on that where I show you how to prepare the surface. And it's a process called depletion gilding, where you bring the fine silver up to the surface. And by depleting, you're depleting the oops, it's not hot enough. It should stick right away. Okay, where was I? Yes, you bring the fine silver up to the surface and deplete it of the copper that's in the sterling silver. Let me get another piece on here. They're kind of hard to grab sometimes. Okay. And you kind of just tap it. Okay, so now it's hot enough. I'm using an agate burnisher. So once you have them down, you kind of want to burnish it into the surface of the fine silver. I'm just using random little bits of gold foil. The more random I think the better, unless you're trying to go for some pattern. Okay, so that's the top. Just move that out and put that on a metal block. The metal block will suck up the heat really quite quickly. It's amazing. Okay, so we're now on to the barrel itself, which is going to be a little bit trickier because I got to heat that whole thing up. Put it on, burnish it in. We'll do a little bit more of that, so let's start putting on more. And that's the process here. Sort of randomly adding our foil. And burnish it into the surface. Ooh, it's hot. Okay. It's a little unwieldy. It wants to roll around. That's what barrels do. And so I'm going to continue this. There's really not much to see. Put it on, make sure it's hot enough, and you'll know that because it'll stick. And then you just first stick it, and then burnish it in there. And then turn it to get another area. I want something up here. Okay, so I'm going to keep fiddling with this. Well, I wouldn't say fiddling, but I'm going to keep doing this process. And I'll get back to you when it's done. Before I go and do it on my own, if your burnisher, agate burnisher and stuff gets too hot, starts to heat up too much, put it on a metal block and have it suck up the heat. No, it's not too hot. And that's not a good idea of testing it with your fingers, but I was pretty sure it wasn't too hot. All right, I'll get back to you. Okay, so we're back. There it is, done. And we'll really bring it out when we oxidize it. So I'm going to go inside where I do the oxidation. I do it with liver sulfur. I've been saying this a lot this episode. I've done another video on that, so if you want to see that, watch that on the other video. But it's all done the same way every time you do liver oxidation with liver sulfur or blackening the surface. So I'll be right back with that and basically the finished product. Hello, I'm back. So here are a couple other examples of that same sort of technique. Here, very, very similar. Here I just oxidized and tried to remove some of the oxidation on the high spots to bring out, the texture of it. And that really does bring out the texture. Much better than this, but I like the way this looks with the gold. And here's one just showing you that it doesn't have to have that hammered look the whole way. You can bouge it out. You can still see the hammer marks inside, but so you can make it like that. Well, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again sometime. Goodbye.